Today's story was written by Reddit user Going Over That Cliff. I was there 55 years ago. It was then known as Operation Morningstar, the coalition assault to liberate this planet, coup de four, and then secure the rest of the star system. Having extensive knowledge of the geography around the southern flatlands, I was chosen to help our allies to set up landing zones ahead of the main force. The problem was that our coalition had been at peace for the better part of half a millennia. All our tactics and strategies were, for better or worse, theoretical and limited by actual experience, or lack thereof. It was in the room when our general had the brilliant or awful idea to ask our new allies if they knew anything about conducting an orbital assault. I can't even begin to describe the smile the human officer had when he heard our request. Personally, I was quite humiliated. When the overgrown monkeys took a look at the elaborate plan I drew up over countless sleepless nights, they simply brushed it off, asking us if it was a joke or a test. After some awkward interactions, they requested a detailed and comprehensive list of all the coalition units involved with relative strength and capabilities. They then asked for a similar estimate on the enemy forces. I clearly remember the head of intelligence storming out of the conference room in tears when he was told that the data provided is superficial at best and lacks both in details and numbers. Unsatisfied, the humans came back a couple of days later with a full index of the Star Union formations present in the theatre of operations, plus possible reinforcements. Till this day, I still don't know from which hat they pulled those files from. The Terrans drew up an extensive plan, taking into account the enemy's probable actions and less likely reactions, predicting possible reinforcement routes, and analysing which units were more likely to break under pressure. It was a plan so elegant yet so simple and intuitive that our general felt personally offended. He was so outraged and jealous of their work that he wanted to leave them completely out of the operations. Thankfully, after some sweet talks and threats from other members of the coalition, the stubborn old Keltian allowed a couple of their officers to coordinate from the rear and some of their specialists to lead from the front. After the big shots drafted the final iteration of the plan, I was informed that me and my unit would operate as pathfinders, a specific role from the human military. That pretty much describes what I was to do. I somewhat protested, saying that me and my men had no experience in this sort of thing, and that it was outside our expertise. I was both reassured and worried when I was told that my section would be paired up with a human company from the famed 7th Lander Battalion, simply known as the Hell's Divers. While our fleets were grouping and preparing to set course for coup de four, I had plenty of time to get to know our bizarre acquired friends. Truth be told, my first impression was not the best. They were loud, rough, and ungracious. By all means, they seemed the most unprofessional, ineffective, and undisciplined soldiers on this side of the galaxy. But the moment we sat down to talk about business, my whole perspective on them radically changed. Captain Miller had the most brutish, rugged, and lived appearance a stereotypical human soldier would have. But a word with him would reveal a deeply caring and cunning man. Moments before boarding the landing crafts, I had a brief conversation with him that still echoes in my mind. "Major, do you know why we have been sent here to help you?" In my blissful ignorance, I simply replied that it was because we are allies, and they were some of the best humanity could offer. Hearing this, he started laughing with spirit, as if I had just said one of the funniest jokes of the century. "Look at us. What do you see?" He cut me off before I could even reply. "We are some of the youngest and some of the oldest in the whole battalion. We either lived too long or not long enough to have a family to wait for us back home. We are among the best, but not the best. We are simply expendable. We are bargaining chips for political favours down the line." I wanted to say more, but what little conversation we were having was quickly and abruptly interrupted by the wailing and incessant sound of the sirens. a distinct tune to let us know our ships punched a hole in enemy lines. Without further hesitation, we quickly found our spots in the cramped steel coffin and fastened our seatbelts as we knew our flight would be shaky. And by God was it hella shaky. Our small group of 10 landing crafts slowly exited one by one from the rear hangar of the flagship, escorted by a flight of starfighters each. I took a moment for myself to admire the beauty of the cosmos. From there, I could clearly see the Rainbow Nebula in all its glory and beauty. The captivating and elegant show of colours gave my heart a short but pleasant break from the nearly incessant roller coaster of emotions I was going through. For a brief moment, I found peace. I found quietness. Only for a moment, though, as our formation quickly turned around towards the planet, to rush the gap in the Union battle line. As soundless, bright, and violent explosions went off all around our crafts, we could do nothing but put our faith in the hands of the pilots and hope for the best. 12 Keltians and 12 humans in each dropship, strapped to rock-hard seats and cramped into a steel tub with stubby wings and laughable power-to-rate ratio. The silence was deafening. Looking out from the viewing port next to me, I saw a space battle so fierce and ferocious that comparing it to a volcanic eruption would be doing her a disservice. Speechless, I kept staring as cruisers were torn from the inside out by bright flashes of light, leaving only smoking hulls and carbonized corpses. I could do nothing but watch as our escort fighters engaged a group of interceptors determined to shoot us down. I could only wait as we flew past the cold remains of Union starships and disfigured wrecks of Coalition strike craft. It was hell. I thought we were in hell, but the real hell was yet to come. What to me felt like an eternity, I later realized was barely 10 minutes, just enough time to get us from the rear of our formation to the edge of the planet's atmosphere. Before diving towards the surface, I gave one last look at the escort fighters, now halved in number, as they broke off to go where they were still needed. "We are entering the upper atmosphere," shouted the space aviator over the comms. Reorganizing my thoughts, I quickly grabbed the receiver from the radio operator, who was sitting next to me, to confirm the status of the other crafts. After being reassured that all 10 were safe and sound, I turned my attention to the pilots. I got up from my seat and walked to the cockpit to better assess the situation. "Major, all good for now, no sign of enemy anti-air artillery or missiles. No enemy fighters on radar either." Relieved, I took my sweet time to look at the map and check the clock. It was all going as planned. I took a deep breath out of relief. As I turned back to address my men and the unlikely human allies about our current situation, the distinctive and petrifying sound of missile lock tore through the anxious silence of the craft. I could not even react in time as a pilot deployed countermeasures and initiated evasive maneuvers. As I lost my footing, I flew from one end of the cabin to the other. From the door facing the cockpit, I was thrown all the way back and ended up smashing against the rear ramp. The impact was so hard that the pain left me numb and unable to react. I was struggling to keep my eyes open, but from my perspective, things were not going well. At all. Even from there, I could see everything pilots could in the cockpit. Dozens, if not hundreds, of smoke trails preceded by deadly, angry and hungry steel tubes, all coming for us. As our bodies and minds were stretched and pulled under the heavy G-force, despite the pilot's best efforts, one of the missiles found its target. The aft engine was torn off, while the remaining one was engulfed in fire and flames. The pilot could do nothing, as half of the control surfaces were badly damaged, while the other was just missing. Amidst the screams of the Keltians and the imprecations of the humans, all I remember was us getting thrown left and right as the craft fell into a deadly flat spin. After unending seconds out of control, we were approaching the hard ground at near terminal velocity. I simply closed my eyes and gave one last prayer to God, hoping for His forgiveness for whatever sin I committed. Once I opened my eyes again, I was nowhere. Literally, I was standing in a black void, surrounded on every side by an odd darkness. I could feel nothing, not one smell, not one sound. I could not feel cold or hot. It was the death of all senses. It was death. I called out loud for someone, for something, but not even the empty echoes of my screams answered my desperate call. I walked, I ran in every possible direction, but my feet led me nowhere. As the scenery was always the same pitch black void, I was slowly getting resigned to. Eventually, after an indefinable amount of time, I gave up. I cried out loud, "I give up." As tears were streaming down like rivers down a valley, next to me a bright light materialized out of nowhere, a glare so white and pure that it turned my tears from salty to sweet. In front of this vision, so glorious and magnificent that brought light even in this murky abyss, shining as if it was day, I could do nothing but kneel and pray for salvation. Then it spoke, seemingly with all the love and affection of this world. "Be not afraid, O lost soul. You have been called here to partake in your last journey on the path of the soul." I didn't need to speak out my feelings, since that being could easily read my heart's voice. "I can feel your concerns, but it is time to move on, to let go of your worldly possessions." At first I didn't understand what it meant, but as I was still making sense of what I just heard, I suddenly noticed out in the distance a faint glare appearing out of nowhere, just like this entity a few moments before. As I focused my sight on that otherworldly phenomenon, many silhouettes slowly faded into existence, lost souls just like me, all heading for that mysterious source of light. What it then said left a bitter taste in my soul. To cross the gates of the afterlife, you need to discard everything you have on yourself, from clothes to emotions. Take your time. Here, it flows at a different rate. I slowly took off all I had, from my weapon to my gear to my clothes. I left my watch, my wedding ring, and my family photo. I had nothing on me but my bare soul. After being forced to let go of what defined me as a living being, the bright being pointed towards a door that would lead me to eternity. With a soft tone, it just wished me good luck and farewell before vanishing, seemingly as quickly as it came. As my naked spirit was left alone, I started heading towards what was to be my destiny. As I got closer, the number of lost ones kept increasing for each step I took. Souls of many different species and races. Keltians, Rajans, Turaks, Borons, and so on. From all factions, from all worlds, all fighting over this planet, just to find equity in the cold embrace of death. I recognized the familiar spirit among the sea of ghosts. He was one of my men. As if swimming against the current, I made my way through the countless masses until I finally reached him. "Lieutenant! Lieutenant!" As he recognized my voice and face, he too forced his way through the unending river of souls. After a struggle worthy of the living, we managed to be face to face one more time. "Well, it seems like we're going to be stuck together for one last mission. Care to join me?" Looking at me, he forced a sad but compassionate smile on his lips. "Well, Major, I told you countless times, I will always follow you, to hell and back." Without further words, we started marching for the unknown. As the glare from the sacred door became brighter and stronger, we noticed the number of souls around us increasing, and our walking speed decreasing. This was unexpected. As we got closer, this infinite path became cramped and busy, so much so that we came to a complete halt. Some around us started complaining and voicing their concerns, with such fever and spirit that it became contagious. What was an ocean of resigned and hopeless souls erupted like a suppressed volcano. Few started shouting and screaming, demanding explanations, while others began to move in unintended directions. Just as the situation was about to spiral out of control, that mysterious being appeared once again above us. It tried to calm and guide the restless souls like a shepherd would with a confused flock. But we were not mindless cattle. Rest assured, lost sheeps, there have been some inconveniences due to the large influx of souls. Take this precious time of rest to praise your Lord and... It could not finish a sentence, as many started loudly complaining and insulting it. No, please, I can assure all of you that we are doing our utmost hearted efforts to resolve the current situation. Tried to reason, using all its persuading abilities and powers, and it would have worked if everyone there was blind. Look there, what are those strange lights? Isn't the gate supposed to be there? This lone voice shattered every hope the being had of pacifying the naturally aggressive souls of all the fallen warriors. Like an unstoppable tsunami, they all started to move in the opposite direction, out of spite, out of bitterness. Me and my comrade were the only ones left there, other than the overwhelmed being whose facade was starting to crack. Those forsaken souls surely are taking their time to move on. Murmured with a nervous laugh. As neither of us was stupid enough to fall for the obvious act, he finally revealed its true colours. With a thundering sound and blinding flash of light, its appearance morphed and distorted into the typical form of a Celtian devil. His candid, pure white skin was replaced by a rotting and putrefying pelt full of scars and unhealed wounds. Blood-red eyes, a disgusting array of nasty and stained teeth, an animalesque tail, a pair of torn wings, and from the forehead, the distinctive horns. I'm going to torture those bastards for eternity, I swear. The moment they step foot beyond the gate, I will grab their souls and torment them until I am satisfied. As he was ranting about his perverse and masochist fantasies, a second devilish figure flew in and warned him. Don't forget about the treaties. We are to deliver each soul to the respective species' afterlife, especially them. Or have you forgotten what happens when you oppose their guardians? Said the newly arrived demon, pointing at the open wounds and sorry appearance. Fuck. Alright, but we need to get rid of them. The dead are becoming restless. We need to shove them beyond the gate. Why is it taking so long? Before the other could reply, something whizzed past us at great speed. It carried with it a distinctive cracking sound, not to speak about the red chemical trail that shone through the infinite void. Turning towards the distant gate, I saw countless flashes in their indistinctive blackness. I had my suspicions, but I wanted to see for myself, out of curiosity. As I started to move, the demons tried to stop me, but they were halted by a mysterious force that transcends time and space. Ah, damn you! Fine, I'm cool, we cool. I will let them be, just this once. Right after finishing this sentence, he collapsed to the ground, holding his head and screaming out in pain. Not really interested in observing his suffering, I gestured to the lieutenant to follow me. Calmly walking, as we got even closer, we could clearly identify the bursts of automatic fire tearing through the lightless nothing. Looking closely, we realized those streams of traces were aiming at shadows and silhouettes swiftly moving in the air, many of them slamming the hard nothingness that stood as ground for a few seconds after being lit up. We stopped before a strange, translucent barrier. It was seemingly made out of pure energy. That was the last obstacle before the gates. Extending my hand, I realized that we could move through it without any problem, and we were about to. Just before I could step forward, a group of demons noticed us. Shouting and swearing, they quickly closed the distance and tried to scare us away. Already determined to meet our destiny, we simply ignored them. When one of them tried to grab my friend, he too fell to the ground, screaming in pain. This was enough to warn the others not to interfere with our journey. As soon as we crossed the invisible wall, the sound of gunfire and explosions reached our ears, confirming our theories. Just before reaching our destination, we ran into a trio of injured and bloody devils. Out of curiosity, I asked them what was happening. Screw off! Don't you dare raise your head, or I will personally torture you for thousands of years." It didn't take long for the mysterious entity guarding over us to force him to talk. "Fine, I will talk. Those humans are refusing to cross the gate. They are already dead, so it's not like we can kill them again. All we can do is physically push them beyond the doors. But those bastards did not let go of their weapons, and our pitchforks can't do much against the light machine gun with infinite ammo. We sent a request to the human afterlife for some help. Only they know how to deal with them." Quite amused, we kept walking until the whole scene was in our sights. And what a picture it was! At the steps of an incredibly beautiful gate stood 12 heavily armed and armoured angry humans who were shredding every single demon who dared to get close. All around them were laying hundreds, if not thousands of bodies of unconscious or painfully awake demons. Since this was the afterlife, one can't die again, so even the devils are just bound to lay there in pain and agony until their wounds are naturally healed, or their bodies are recomposed. Finally, reaching the end of what was supposed to be our last journey, I got to share a few words with those madmen. "Captain Miller, is this really you?" "Of course it's me, my dear Zeno Major." Who the hell would it be otherwise? Confused, I asked him what he was doing, and why. Among the deafening sound of automatic fire and rocket launchers going off all around us, he said something about the mission and responsibilities. I wasn't really in the mood for some classic human lines. We are dead. We must move on. Whatever we were supposed to do in life, well, we can't do it anymore. Stop it already. The human seemed taken aback by my words. He stood there for a couple of seconds staring at me while holding a shotgun covered in blood. Not of his own. Look at us. We were almost senile. We were almost breathless. Destiny, or Providence, put all the eldest members of the company in our shuttle. For decades, we have forsaken all our relationships just to follow a banner waving in the wind. A flag always in reach but always too far to grab. That piece of cloth was supposed to be happiness, freedom. None of us have anything to fight for other than loyalty to the military, the same institution that deprived us of everything. In short, that was not life. It was existence, and that existence was simply miserable. I just stood there. Even before I could reply, he continued his uninspiring speech. Now we are here, no longer bound by frail bodies, as our strength comes from our mind. When we were told to discard our possession, we simply said no. Who are they to order us around? They think they can get our stuff away? Let them come get it. Still confused, I asked about the infinite ammunition, but the reply did not help to clear my doubts. We were supposed to throw them away ourselves, right? What we brought with us will not simply vanish unless we let go of it. Right now, we are using our equipment, not abandoning it. We can go on as long as we wish, and these sorry excuses of devils are comparable to annoying flies in the summer heat. I wanted to say more, but the cries of the lieutenant grabbed my attention. Sir, I feel something strange. I don't... He could not complete the sentence as his soul vanished right before our eyes. Falling into panic, I asked everyone around, but they were too busy enjoying the unending slaughter to care about me. I then heard some voices. Out in the distance, echoes that only I could hear resounded in my mind. 1, 2, clear. Immediately, I felt a great disturbance, as if my soul was being pulled from the underworld, pulled upwards. 1, 2, clear. Damn, again. I looked back at Miller. I wanted to explain, but he seemingly knew everything, even before me. Go, my alien friend. We will hold our ground here until reinforcements arrive, or until we fall again. Go live your life, and don't care to show your face around here anytime soon. I did the only thing I thought appropriate. I straightened my back and assumed the human military salute. 1, 2, clear. I got a pulse. Quick, bring oxygen. I opened my eyes before a sea of stars in the night. All the medics were treating me and checking my vitals. Major, you gave us a scare. It's a miracle that your bodies were not splattered all over the dropship, let alone that we managed to revive you. Initially, we weren't even thinking of coming to check on you, but we had a strange feeling. Dazed and disorientated, I asked about the current situation. All the other 9 crafts have successfully reached their objectives and have set up landing beacons for the rest of the army, the fleet in orbit. No, not that. What about the others that were in the craft with me? I shouted out in frustration. It's a miracle. All 12 Keltians, plus the pilots, have been resuscitated and don't have any sign of lasting injuries. About the 12 humans, their bodies are in pristine conditions, but despite our best efforts, we can't get a pulse. Let them rest, for they have fought long enough. Yes, sir. I then stood up and looked again at the night sky. I felt many emotions after seeing nothing but darkness and despair for what seemed like an eternity to me. It was then that I noticed a constellation I've never seen before. I've lived my whole life on this planet, and I know the celestial dome like the back of my hand. Those 12 stars have never been there before. After the operation, I asked around. I was told that what I saw was actually the light from a cluster of irregular neutron stars from a galaxy on the other side of the observable universe. That light travelled for billions of years just to reach our eyes. Those celestial bodies are now probably long gone, but I know the truth. No one amongst the survivors remembers anything, but I can't delete those events from my mind. Every once in a while, you can still see those 12 stars shining in the sky, even during the day. Do you know why? It happens when those humans take back control over the gates of the afterlife, and no one is allowed to pass on as long as they are there. The demons can do nothing but wait for the angels from the human paradise to come and move them away, as they will not force the lost souls of their own people to cross the gate, and those human angels sure take their time to arrive. That's awesome, Dad. Children, say goodnight to Grandpa and thank him for the bedtime story. That's not fiction. It really happened. Sure, Dad. Let's get you to bed now. Left alone in his room, the old Keltian gets up from his bed to look at the sunset one last time. After a long and fulfilling life, he slowly approaches the drawer of his desk and takes his old service handgun. Calmly, he intakes a whole bottle of sleeping pills and closes his eyes, not to open them again, smiling on his bed, pistol loaded and ready. And, as the night falls over Cuda 4, 13 rebellious stars shine free up there in the vast sky.